Hi again, everyone. It's Rob Ryder, and today is March 6, 2021. And I'm going to be talking about Veterans Rule the Nation. We would do that via the County Department of Veterans Affairs. And this is part one. And of course, this all depends on the County Department of Veterans Affairs actually doing what's written and whatever the documents are that created them, right? But it appears that in every county is some form of connection for veterans to the Department of Veterans Affairs, or yeah, let's just say that for right now. Okay, well, the difference between this and, like, let's say the American Legion or so forth is this is through the county government. So in Michigan's case, for instance, they have, depending on the size or how it was set up by the county commissioners, right, from 3 to 7 veterans sitting on a board. And that board is, it's within the county government. Well, that's a lot different than trying to do it from the outside when you're talking to the VA or anyone else, right? Even if you hire an attorney, right? You're still doing it as a private citizen. But if you went to these people and had them, plead your case or do whatever they can do, and that's what we're going to look at. Well, what can they do? Well, now it's the government doing it for you, right? So that, these other entities can't just say, screw off or whatever. So let's get into this a bit. And, if you've never watched my videos before, I'm Staff Sergeant Robert Allen Rutluski, United States Army veteran. I'm an old veteran. I'm 62, but I'm not giving up the staff sergeant. I never got a discharge order, right? So I don't like to be called Mr. Now, there may be one caveat to that. In fact, this has something to do with this Department of Veterans Affairs because, if you were never released from the military, which you don't have an order, I don't have an order. I don't know any veteran who actually has a discharge order. You may have a DD-214, but that's not evidence of discharge. It's just a piece of paper, right? You don't have an order. So, therefore, you're still in the military. And as long as you're in the military, they could have given you a promotion. So in the Army, we have warrant officers, which are a Mr., right? So if they want to say I'm a warrant officer now and pay me that wage, I'm happy to take it. Otherwise, you can call me Staff Sergeant. And my email address is quarterrecord@AOL.com. Now, you all can call me Rob Ryder. I'm talking about, the Gooberman, whoever they are, these impersonators. Now, this is the other thing, right? I've done a lot of videos on this stuff, so let's just real quick here. See. Or if you go to my YouTube site on Rob Ryder, ROBBBRYDER, in this case, with 3 B's, mistake I made way back on day 1 that I never fixed. I've done close to 400 videos now, and somewhere on here, although I don't see it, I did just recently I put together a playlist of all the things I've done on military or veterans and so forth. But let's say here, Trump, Satan's full house, right? Just for a quick overview of the things I'm talking about, which is that there's nobody in Congress that's actually taken the oath to satisfy the 6th article of the Constitution, which has in there in its 3rd clause, the senators and representatives aforementioned and executive and judicial officers of the United States and the several states and the state legislatures, blah, 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 all need to take an oath to support the Constitution of the United States, and no religious test shall ever be required. Okay, well, the one that Congress takes says so help me God on it. So that's a religious test. That one doesn't work. Even though the president has one in Article 2, he still needs to take this one for Article 6 because the one in Article 2 doesn't say it supports the Constitution. It says everything else but, is done purposely. So, there isn't anybody in the real government. And the only people that have taken an oath that we could say was done properly, and this, before I would have said this didn't apply to military officers, but now I know that it does because in 1949, they said that military officers were no longer executive officers of the United States, right? Because they take an oath that says, so help me God. So the point is, if you're not holding an office under the 6th article, then the oath isn't the same as the one for the 6th article. which was written into law, the first law of this nation after the Constitution was ratified, an act to regulate the time and manner of administering certain oaths. And the oath they're talking about, and it's right in the frickin' law, 1 Stat 23, S-T-A-T, right? Statutes at Large, Book 1, page 23, is the first law passed, and it's in there. It says, this is the oath that satisfies the 6th article of the Constitution of the United States. I, state your name, do solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States. Period. Well, that has since been put into the United States Code, and it's in Title 4, United States Code, Section 101, where there it says specifically that all state officers, executive and judicial, and state legislatures have to have taken the following oath. I, state your name, do solemnly swear to support the Constitution of the United States. And if they don't do that, they don't have any authority. So it doesn't matter that they're taking some other oath or they're taking an oath to the state constitution. The federal government says, well, you need to take this oath. And because the Constitution is overriding over everything, then it's the one that is, the most required. I mean, they'd all be required, but if you ain't done this one, then you don't have any authority in the United States. And that's what we're dealing with. You go to court, the judge doesn't have that oath. So why are you in court with that judge, right? He's a Judge Judy to you. He doesn't have any authority in the United States. Blah, 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 blah. It goes on and on and on. Well, I've been talking about this shit for years, right? So I got a whole bunch of videos on all sorts of things that are wrong in the United States as far as the way that, the government acts and so forth. And, when I started, I didn't know any of this stuff. And, now over time, it's all becoming more self-evident. So this is what we're dealing with. But what do we do about it, right? If you're going to wait for Trump and the people in D.C. to fix it, well, that ain't going to happen. They're waiting on us. Because if we as veterans were recognized as part of the government through this office, then we could call the Army in to say, hey, these people don't have an oath of office. Right? It's an insurrection. But they have the system set up where, as a private individual, you don't get to talk to anybody. You don't have any standing. Right? But you would have standing going through this office is my interpretation of what I'm reading. So I'm at least going to go find out. And that's what this is about. My journey down this road to see if veterans can rule the nation via their county Department of Veterans Affairs. All right. So give me a minute and I'll put a few things out. Let's get started. Or I might have to pop in and out quite often because I got so many things I have to show. Show you a slide, talk for a minute, go get another one, and so forth. I can't keep them all in my head. But what I want to show here is, that it isn't just in Michigan. I think that this is in any state. So if you're a veteran, or if you're a survivor of a veteran, or a dependent of a veteran, or any connection to a veteran, right? You're going to want to find this office. Right? And so if you just put in your county and, county name and veterans, you'll probably find a hit. But so I just went out to see, like, this is Florida, right? This is Monroe County, which I know nothing about. But, they have veteran service officers, and this is being run, right? Here's county departments, Veterans Affairs, right? This is an office in the county government. Clark County, Ohio, Veteran Services. Clark County Veterans Office employs service officers to assist veterans in obtaining any and all benefits for which they are eligible. In addition, emergency finance assistance is available for basic living needs on a case-by-case basis. Okay, so, again, this is, let's see, office, departments, and agencies, veteran services, right? It's under the county government. Here's one for California, right? San Diego. Office of Military Veterans Affairs. And, I want to show this one because it said it quite well. So this is, again, in Florida, the Osceola County Veterans Service Office in Osceola County is Osceola County's local government office, charged with acting as your veterans benefits advocates. Well, an advocate's not an attorney, right? An advocate is, I may have to go pull that definition up so we can look at it, but it's like ecclesiastical or civil. And they're there to protect and defend your rights. So then there's also at the state level, we have these departments. But actually, this department here for Michigan, it says Department of Military and Veterans Affairs, but they don't show it here. But then it actually has the word agency afterwards. So this is like their trade name they're using, Department of Military and Veterans Affairs. But the proper name has the word agency behind it. And this says state of Michigan, which, to me, that's the corporate jurisdiction. I don't want that one. I want the one on the land, right? I want the one through the county that's tied to the United States, all right? Not the one that's tied to the state of Michigan. So, okay, hang on here. So anyways, you can see, just go put in your county name or your state, put in Veterans Affairs and see what comes up. And pretty soon you'll be looking at something similar to the things I'll be talking about. And, within a week or so, I'll know more about what it is I am talking about. And, we can talk about it again. So hang on. All right. So without boring everybody to death and all the words they use when they write these things up, this is for Michigan. It's an act. Act 192 of 1953, County Department of Veterans Affairs, right? An act to create a County Department of Veterans Affairs in certain counties and to prescribe its powers and duties to create the County Veteran Service Fund and to provide for contributions to expenditures from the fund and to transfer the powers and duties of the Soldier Relief Commission. So the County Board of Commissioners may create County Department of Veterans Affairs, which would mean that they did that, well, there has to be an ordinance someplace, right? So this is what I want to find is I want to see the ordinance. I want to see that they were actually done. But let's say they did it, right? The County Department of Veterans Affairs, right? So in my case, Kent County Department of Veterans Affairs shall be under the administration of a committee of 3 to 7 veterans, right? So these 3 to 7 veterans then are over a committee that's within the government of the county, right? Shall be under the administration, right? The Department of Veterans Affairs shall be under the administration of the committee of 3 to 7. So this isn't a legislative committee. They're not making any laws. They're administering them, right? This is an executive office. It's like the president being split into 3 or 7 people. Got to get a quorum, whatever they vote. Well, that's the vote of the executive branch of the entity, right? But that's it. That they're charged with enforcing the law. They're the administration. Members appointed to the committee shall be residents of the county and have served honorably on active duty in the United States Armed Forces. Well, excellent. I don't have to talk to an attorney. I get to talk to a veteran. Now, he may be an attorney, but he's still a veteran, right? I don't know if, I don't even know who these people are. I don't know if they're farmers or if they're, serving on the county board or who they are. But there you are, right? That they have to be honorably, have served honorably on active duty in the United States Armed Forces. Outstanding. Now, I have actually talked to this office, or where they lead you to, and the guy I'm talking to, he's admitted that they're part of the county government. But when I said, well, you're part of the government, he says, well, we're just part of the county government. And so keep this in mind. If you ever when you talk to these people, hopefully other people kind of get on this path and see what they find out. Right? When they say they're just part of the county government, you need to tell them, well, the county isn't its own entity, my friend, right? The county is a subdivision of the state. So either you're part of the federal state or the several state, right? But one or the other, you're either part of the United States state or the several states that make up the United States as the government. So, it's a big deal. There is no such thing as just the county government. The county government is the county is no more than an administrative subdivision of the state. All right, so if there's an opening, well, then the Board of Commissioners is going to post shall notice that an opening of more or one newspapers within the county, a veteran service organization within the county. Okay, so there you are. You can serve for up to 4 years. They're going to take these other Soldiers Relief Commission and abolish and mix and match and put it all into this one, that's under this law. But if they didn't do that, then these other things still exist, like Act 214, 1899, and Act 235, 1911. So there could be counties that are still run under those. But in my case, they're saying that were formed under this act that we're looking at now. So the administrative committee of the county department, selection of officers, expenses, the committee shall select a chairman and a secretary. Okay, so, those are the people that are in charge of the committee. I say that, I should, if I want to do business with the committee, I got to get a hold of the chairman and I send it care of the secretary, right? So that the secretary puts it in their book that this letter came in for the chairman and, now it's been logged in. It's official business. Now I'm going to find out how they do business, right? But that's my perception of how that would be. I don't need to chase around these committee members. I need to know who the secretary and the chairman are. The committee is authorized to incur such expenses. That's fine. The committee shall appoint veteran service officer. Well, that's even better. Right? So now this veteran service officer is working within the government of the county. In the selection of veteran service officers hereby authorized, the committee shall consult these other places, like the VFW and the American Legion and so forth, which also have service officers, but they're not in the government. Now, they could be. In fact, I'm going to have to stop for a second and talk about the American Legion, but let me finish up with this first. Right? The American Legion could have almost all these powers itself because it's a federal corporation. And not just the American Legion, all these federal corporations like the VFW or, you think of all the different patriotic associations that exist. But it has in their charters that they have to register their agent with the Secretary of State. And none of them have done that. And if they haven't done it, they can't use the powers of their charter. So that's just the way it is, right? And I'll show a better example in a second. But that's why I'm saying, well, at least in the county, right, this is supposed to be in the government, which is already existing. And whether all these people took the oath or not, they're still acting like the government. So at least I'm going to give it to people that are in the entity that acts like the government. Okay, county service fund. This is just, money if you needed it, which the thing is, see, as veterans, we shouldn't need any money. That part of the problem is there's errors and omissions in our records, and we're not getting the money that we should be getting now anyways. More on that later. So to be eligible to receive a grant, right? So if they're going to set this up and get this grant, then they have to do these things, which this is the one of interest. Establish remote access to the United States Department of Veterans Affairs computing system and require county veteran service officers to obtain a PIV card. Well, now they're attached directly to the frickin' federal government. All right, this PIV card is, that's a card for somebody who's working for the government. So, if you take out United States and put in Kent County Department of Veterans Affairs, to me, then is just a local branch of the United States Department of Veterans Affairs. Now, Kent County doesn't call themselves the Department of Veterans Affairs, right? They don't actually use that term for the thing that they created. But I don't know that they had to. What they had to do is whatever they created, by whatever name they gave it, had to be done under this act. And this act then becomes my procedure to audit their, what they're doing. They need to do for me whatever this act says. And now we get down to what does the act say, right? And so that's where the interpretation comes in. But I don't need to convince an attorney. I need to convince other veterans, right? So all I'm asking them is let's just do it by the book, right? We don't need a court case. We're just going to do it by the book. Whatever the book says is good enough for Staff Sergeant Robert Allen Ratlewski. I just care that we do it by the book. Okay, accredited veteran service officer means an individual who has met the qualifications of 38 U.S.C. 5904 and 38 CFR 14629. And you'll find, if you're going to do this, that those are really good things to start when you see them, highlight them or whatever, go copy them, paste them, and see what it is, right? Because all these are like 38 USC 5904 is a law in the state, in the United States Code, right? But all they give you here is just its, its identifier. But when you go to read the thing, well, it's got all sorts of interesting information in it. This PIV card then is a personal identity verification card issued by the United States Department of Veterans Affairs. Well, that puts that person in, authorized by the Department of Veterans Affairs to act as your agent with the Department of Veterans Affairs. Okay, and here's a biggie. Veteran service operations means assistance and programming of any kind to meet the needs of veterans of the state. So that's a really, 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 really broad statement, right? Veteran service operation means assistance and programming of any kind to meet the needs of a veteran in this state. Well, one of the things I've been trying to do for quite some time, if you've been following along, is get Gretchen Esther Whitmer arrested for impersonating the governor of Michigan, right? Where she ran as Gretchen Whitmer, which is not her full legal name. And she didn't file the oath for 4 USC 101. And it goes on and on. I did many videos on all the things that she did wrong, and it's not just her, it's any governor. They all have the same issues. If they did not execute the oath in Title 4, United States Code, Section 101, then they're not whatever officer they're claiming to be. Well, one of the things I need to do, I think, is put in a sworn statement. And so they should be able to do my sworn statement for me. But let's go on. So veteran service operations include, but are not limited to, providing assistance programming, which I need to find out what do you mean by programming? Right? And services for the purpose of assisting veterans in this state, and providing advice, advocacy, and assistance to veterans, service members, dependents, or survivors. And so, again, this isn't just for, right? A service member is somebody who's still serving today, right? So dependents and survivors, well, there you go. This office is for anybody who's got anything to do with the military. If you live in a county, they have an office to go to that has something to do with veterans, service members, dependents, and survivors. Right? This is our doorway into the government. Powers and duties. The County Department of Veterans Affairs shall perform such duties and exercise such powers as shall be necessary in carrying out the provisions of this act. Again, that's a broad brushstroke. Whatever you need to do. Call in the Army, right? You got to. Whitmer needs to go. Either she takes the oath or she needs to go. And if she won't take the oath, then call in the Army and have her carted away to the nearest FEMA camp, right, to await trial by a military tribunal and the execution of her sentence. You can take the person pretending to be the Attorney General and the one pretending to be the Secretary of State. They're all esquires, by the way, right? That's the problem. Esquires have taken over what we used to call the government, and they've made it a closed shop, just like they made, the practice of law. They are the fucking Soviet Union. The county, right? So shall perform such duties and exercise such powers as shall be necessary to carry out provision of this act, and shall, and any and all other benefits to which veterans may be entitled as prescribed by County Department of Veterans Affairs. I don't know if most civilians understand how big the military really is, right? But you ever been to Fort Hood? Now, of course, I was back there way back in the 80s, right? But you could drive mile after mile, just machinery after machinery after machinery after machinery, tanks, APCs, Bradley fighting vehicles, on and on and on. Go to like Dover, Delaware, C5, C5, C5. Far as you can see in both directions, C5 airplane. Right? That's the doorway we're going into, the people that have that shit. All right, so, and as a veteran, right? Living, no longer on active duty. Well, technically we should be the eyes and the ears of the military government that's been put in place since 1861. Maybe 18, yeah, 18. Well, I think it could have been 1863. That's when the Lieber Code was uh, prescribed, right? So the Lieber Code's a general order. It was an order given to the Army, so the Army's doing whatever the order says. Could have been to the Navy, too. I don't want to cut the Navy out. Sorry, Navy. All right, hang on a minute. Let me go to the next page here. Quickly, let's look at the definition of advocate, right? Civil and ecclesiastic law. An officer who maintains or defends the rights of his client in the same manner as the counselor does in the common law. Lord Advocate, an officer in the state of Scotland appointed by the king to advise about making and executing the law to prosecute capital crimes, etc. You got college or faculty of advocates, you got church or ecclesiastic advocates, pleaders appointed by the church to maintain its rights, a patron who has an adowson or presentation to the church. So that's one, that was, what it said in that one county's website. And then what we're going to find is they talked a lot about agents. So let's just look at agent real quick while we're here. Agent. Agent parent. It's not the one we're looking at. All right, you got agent contracts, practice, international law. Well, that's what I'm going with. One who is employed by a prince to manage his private affairs or those of his subjects in his name near a foreign government. That's my agent, right? Because because we're under international law right now. We're under a declared armed conflict, and so that puts us under the laws of war. I mean, this was when Justice Kavanaugh was being vetted. The Senate hearings, right? That was what Lindsey Graham was talking to him about. Do you know the difference between, the laws of war and, civilian law? And of course he did, right? So, and they agreed that right now, military law could apply just as easily as civilian law can apply. Alrighty, I want to get them into the military side. Because one of the many privileges that you have as a veteran is you have the privilege to trial by court martial. All right, so if you need to go to court, you need to say, "Hey, I am privileged for trial by court martial," and that would take it out of the fictitious court you're in, which is somebody sitting up there who doesn't have a proper oath of office, more like a Judge Judy than anybody, right? And forcing them to do it as a military trial, and then under a court martial, your due process rights are then protected by the military, where they're supposed to be protected by the Constitution, but we're not under the Constitution because, we're under martial law. And we've been invaded by esquires, right, who have set up this association, and, which could be done under the Bill of Rights. Right, and they've all, what is assumed is that we've agreed to be in their jurisdiction because of the way we fill out paperwork. We put the wrong address here. We don't check that box there. There's some defects that, void out the paper we were trying to do, and we end up doing something completely different. And it's all done as part of a scheme, right? And the whole idea is to undo the scheme. So, okay, so let's look at a few forms that are involved in this process. I love forms. I'm all about the forms, right? Because if they put out a form and it wants information in a box and it isn't there, then somebody didn't do it right, right? And so, it's easy to see what should be there and what doesn't need to be there. And if we look to make sure things are there and complain about things that aren't there, then, that's how you get your paperwork straightened out. Otherwise, there'll be administrative errors in your records. And if there's administrative errors in your records, then under Title 38, United States Code, Section 503, the Secretary of the Veterans Affairs can give you equitable relief for errors and records caused by federal employees. So a lot of what I'm doing right now is getting the paperwork in so that I can have them go get all my records, which is much better than if we try to go get our records, I believe. And I'm going to show you why before we're done here, because they have access through different doorways than we do. But this is the form that you would use to appoint a veteran service organization as claimant's representative. Right? So this could be used for like the county that we're talking about now, or the American Legion, VFW, yada, 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 all the different entities. In fact, they have a list of them on here, right? But again, I'm going to the one that's in the county. And so when you fill this out, I just wanted to show this real quick, right? That they want you to put your veteran's name. Now, I didn't know this when I went in the military, and I didn't know this for a long time, but really, I don't have a middle name, right? I have a given name. It's Robert Allen, right? And so Robert Allen is my first name because I don't have a middle name, therefore I don't have a middle initial. So this is how I would put my name on this form, right? Robert Allen, leave that blank and put Britluski afterwards, right? But then as I was reading through here, kind of find out all the records in the VA, they're all tied to your Social Security number. Now, if you're a survivor, dependent, whatever, it could still be tied to your Social Security number. And it's definitely tied, and there's records that are tied to the veteran, but there could be records tied to you if you've already applied for these things. And that's just all the things I've learned about this since, looking at it. And so anyways, you fill this part out. If it's not the veteran, well, then if this is the veteran's information here, then who's the claimant, right? If you're a survivor or a dependent or whatever. But then here's where the service organization information goes in. So this would be the Kent County Services Office. Blah, 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 blah. The name of some official representative. Right? So that puts them in. Social Security number goes at the top, so it carries over. So we know that this second page goes with that first page. And, there's lots of read between the lines stuff here, that when you start to go look at, so it gives you a lot more details, right? But for instance, you can authorize them to, not disclose certain information. You can authorize the official representative of the organization named in item 15 to act on my behalf to change my address and my VA records. Well, that'd be a wonderful thing, because I don't know that all the records are the same, right? And so do I always get the mail? Because I know whenever I get mail for the VA, it has my middle initial name in it. I don't have a middle initial name, right? In fact, I went and specifically changed the records with the VA so that it wouldn't have one in there, and yet I still get mail in a middle initial name. Well, there's something going on, right? So check the box, right? Let's all agree what my address is, which is going to be this address here. I want to talk about this real quick. Veterans mailing address, right? So 10955 14 Mile Road, Northwest, right? And then it has this unit number, apartment unit number. I did a series of videos some time ago that you actually have a 12-digit zip code, right? You got this +9 that you're used to, but then they have 3 more digits they put on the end, which actually form what's called your delivery point. And it's your delivery point, which is the specific mail point for whatever it is that we're talking about, right? So it's almost like saying a suite number. It's not the whole big building. That's a particular room in the building. That's where the office is that mail needed to go to. Well, if you live in a private residence, right, they say that they use the last 2 numbers of your house address, right? So mine's 55, right? So my unit number is 55. And if you want to see if that's a valid address for yourself on yours, let me do that real quick. Hang on. If you Google zip code lookup, right, you'll find the zip code lookup for the USPS. And if you click on that and say search by address, is it going to put my address in here? Yeah. Right. If I put in Suite 55, and search, all right, it says full address 10955 42 Mile Road, Northeast, number 55, Rockford, Michigan. Right now, this is the full address. What makes it a mailing address is when you add your name onto it. Right? Because your name is the first line of a mailing address. So Robert Allen Rutluski at that address, right, would be to a specific box at a physical location. Where the physical location is 10955 14 Mile Road Northeast. The actual location in the physical location is number 55. And yeah, that shit makes a difference to these people. It's all about the jots and tittles. If you don't have the jots and tittles right, then you're going to take yourself out of one jurisdiction and put yourself in another. All right, hang on. All right, so again, if you live in an apartment, well, put your apartment number. If you live in a house that has its own address, then put the last two digits. And here is the unit number. If you only have one digit, like, well, I live on 1, right? You're right at the corner. Well, it's 01, right? There's a 0 before the 1. It's there. There just isn't any value for it. 01. Claimant's name, same thing, right? Then this is the service organization. And then we're going to check a box here and say, yeah, go ahead and let's get all my records changed to this mailing address. This just says my address. It doesn't say mailing address. So this could be the residence address, which is, another address. We have all sorts of addresses. No one will tell you exactly what bits of information go in each one of them. But you got situs address, you got freaking physical address, mailing address, parcel address, property address, residence address. So in Michigan, they want you to put your residence address on your paperwork to get an ID. And it says right on the renewal one, it says for, residence address, it's required. And it has street and number. Well, does that mean I put, 10955 after the name of my street? Or is 10955 the street address and I got to have some other number, which I believe is what it is. It's like a lot number that nobody will tell you what it is. So you can't put the proper address in the frickin' form. And so you put this other, defective address and, well, you just took yourself out of the jurisdiction. Crazy. I, the claimant, named in 1 or 10, hereby appoint service organization named in 15 as my representative to prepare, present, prosecute my claims for any and all benefit from the Department of Veterans Affairs based on service for the veteran named in 1. I authorize VA to release any and all of my records to include disclosure of my federal tax information to my appointed service organization. And then to me, go get all the records. Yeah, I want you to get everything you can find on me and give me a copy. I understand that my appointed representative will not charge any fee or compensation for services rendered pursuant to this appointment. All right, you're not paying for this. It's a privilege. I understand that the service organization I have appointed as my representative may revoke this appointment at any time, subject to 38 CFR 20.6. So we'll see what happens, right? Signatures, right? So I sign it, and so do they. So now you have a contract, right? This is a bilateral contract. Both parties are going to sign a contract. That's a wonderful day in America. Because in your, if you own a house, right, you believe that you have a loan, the bank never signed the paperwork, right? They didn't lend you any money. There's no contract with the bank. Didn't happen. Doesn't matter what they said. Where's the contract with the bank? Well, the problem with that shit is you're always talking to attorneys, right? And, in their little closed shop, and they're going to make sure that you don't find a way out. Well, then it doesn't really matter what you say. They will lie, cheat, and steal and take your property. It's in the Bible, right? They take the widow's property and go and have a beer afterwards. As long as this appointment is in fact the organization named herein will be recognized as the sole representative for preparation, presentation, prosecution of your claim before the Department of Veterans Affairs in connection with your claim or any portion thereof. Yeah, okay, I get it. If I don't revoke it, then I left it with them. Now, here's all the different places that are recognized, right? There's, American Legion, American Red Cross, all of them are in here. And I don't want to pick on the American Legion any more than I need to, but I'm going to right now. So let's just stop real quick, and I'm going to show you what's wrong with the American Legion. All right, the American Legion got a charter from the Congress, right? So this wasn't five guys at a bar that set this up. No, the Congress of the United States created a federal corporation and said, here, veterans, the American Legion, it's yours. And it gave us some purposes, right? It's a federal charter. The American Legion is a federally chartered corporation. So when they say that the United States is a federal corporation, they mean the American Legion is the United States, because the American Legion is a federal corporation. Should be, but they didn't do their paperwork right. Except as otherwise provided, the corporation has perpetual existence. And now what's its purposes? To uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States. Well, that's a pretty powerful thing to have in your freaking charter from the Congress. We're tasking you with upholding and defending the Constitution of the United States. Okay, thank you. Right? Well, what powers did you give it to do that? Well, you got all these powers on this page. And then we gave it the power to sue and be sued. Right? And it would be suing as the United States because it's a federal corporation, or to do any other act necessary or proper to carry out the purpose of the corporation, which is to protect and defend the Constitution, so they could call on the fucking military and say, the judge down in the county building doesn't have an oath of office. You need to come and get him out of there. Well, that'll shake things up. Now, here's the problem. Right here, service of process. As a condition to exercise any power or privilege granted by this charter, the corporation shall file with the Secretary of State or other designated official of each state the name and address of an agent in that state on whom legal process or demands against the corporation may be served. All right, they got to file their paperwork with the Secretary of State or other designated officials. So, who is it? Now, if we go on and read the Constitution then, where it says that the name will be the American Legion and that the national headquarters of the American Legion shall be located at the site of the Indiana World War Memorial in the city of Indianapolis, Indiana, which means I should be able to go to Indiana then, to the Secretary of State's website, and find that the American Legion's been registered there. And it has not. So what are you going to do? I've tried to get them to do it right. I've wrote them, a couple times, sent emails, done all, It's like falling on deaf ears because they're all listening to attorneys telling them, they can't do anything. So that's what all these are, right? So if you could get any of these to actually do what their charter says, because they all have a charter someplace, and make sure they did it right, then, they would have the same powers as a municipal corporation. Right? So although agency titles vary, the following states and possessions maintain veteran service agencies which are recognized to present claims. Right? And hey, there's Michigan. So that's why I say this county thing is, right? That's what they're talking about. Now, I want to read some of this Privacy Act notice, but it's a little bit too small to read here. I'm going to show you a separate section in just a second. And so what I've done so far is I had contacted Kent County, got a call back, and on Monday, we're supposed to have an over the phone meeting and do whatever is done next, right? But in that, I believe, well, as far as I'm concerned, we're going to be doing this piece of this document here. Right? There's really no reason to go any further until this has been executed. But I want to read this Privacy Act notice because this is, the read between the lines stuff is where a lot of things are kept. And so it says the VA will not disclose information collected on this form to any source other than what has been authorized under the Privacy Act of 1974 or Title 38, Code of Federal Regulations 1.576 for routine uses. Right? So this is what it will be used for. Right? Other than this, they won't give it to anybody. But here's what they will give it for. Civil or criminal law enforcement, congressional communications, epidemiological or research studies, the collection of money owed to the United States, litigation in which the United States is a party or has an interest, the administration of VA programs and delivery of VA benefits, verification of identity and status, and personal administration, as identified in the VA system of records. Right, here's the thing. VA System of Records, 58 VA 21/22/28, compensation, pension, education, vocational rehabilitation, employment records, published in the Federal Register. Well, as it turns out, this system of records, the 58 VA 21/22, that's just one group of a system of records, right? So there's many groups of records that the VA has, but they're all similar to this in the way they set them up, where they give it a number, and then that system of records has these, the information from these particular subjects in it. So in this particular one, it says, right, the categories of records in the system, the record of information contained in the record may include identifying information, name, address, social security number, military service and active duty separation information, name, service number, date of birth, rank, sex, total amount of active service, branch of service, character of service, pay grade, assigned separation, assigned separation reason, service period, whether veteran was discharged with a disability, re-enlisted, received a Purple Heart, or other decoration. Let's stop right there. Whether veteran was discharged with a disability, re-enlisted, received a Purple Heart, or other military decoration. So veterans are still in the military. If you re-enlist, you're still a veteran. Right? Because a veteran ball player isn't somebody who's retired. A veteran ball player is somebody who's been at it a while. Right? So being called a veteran does not mean that you're no longer in the military. Okay, payment information. Veterans payee name. Right? Now, does that name match the name of the veteran? Because way back in the day when you first went in as an enlisted person to sign your papers with the recruiter, right? You filled out a form. It's called a DD, Department of Defense, Form 1966. If you can Google it and find it and pull it up, look at it, you'll see on there that at some point, that's like on the third page, you're going to certify that your name is Robert A. Ritluski, your version of it. They're going to make you certify that you have a name in the middle initial, or that your name has just an initial. Right? Now, on the first page, they make you certify that your name is Robert Allen Ritluski. The third page is Robert A. Ritluski. There's two different styles of names I certified on the damn document. Me and everybody else. And, this is all stuff that's been filled out by the recruiter ahead of time, and, not the kind of things that 18-year-olds have to worry about. But that's where they got you into it. This is the thing. That's where it all started. It's the jots and tittles. So we need to go fix these records. So, I want them to go get me this bunch of records, and let's look at it to find out what's wrong. What else we got? Payee, address, dollar amount of readjusted service pay, amount of disability or pension payments, number of non-pay days, and the amount of indebtedness arising from Title 38 benefits which are owed to the VA. So if you owed, the government $10, they'd put a lien on your property and they wouldn't give you the rest of it. That's the way it works. right? There could be some small amount of money that you owe on something. You didn't turn your canteen in, your web gear or something when you discharged from active duty, and you got this bill against you. But the other thing for me is, in my DD-214 long form, and I go get all the information I can about it, and I read through it, it shows that for the code they used, I should have gotten a separation pay. Right? Well, I never got separation pay. Well, all that, I should be able to prove by looking at these records here. Okay, then we got medical information. Medical and dental treatment in the armed forces, including type of service-connected disability, medical facilities, medical and dental treatment by the VA. Right? This is in the military and at VA headquarters. They're not making a distinction between the two. Active duty and, reserve status, whatever they want to call, wherever they put us right now. Personal information, right? Marital status, name, address of dependents, occupation, amount of education, veterans, all sorts of good information. So, right, that's comes right out of this Privacy Act notice, which was actually, I'm going to find this damn thing now. Right out of this thing right here. Right there it is, System of Records. Well, speaking of System of Records, if you just Google VA System of Records, you can go to the VA website and you'll find a list of VA Privacy Act Statement Systems of Records, right? Which these records aren't just for you. They're things to do with the VA, but they do have your health records in here, according to this. Right? Veteran, employees, citizens, healthcare, facility, investigative records. Where's the one I'm looking for? Purchase care, community, health care claims. Well, let me find it real quick. Or like here, right? Litigation files, right? So you can find out, we submit all this paperwork, and all we ever get back is, well, it's been denied. But whatever happened, right, there's a record of it someplace. Well, I want a copy of it. Well, here it is, right? Litigation files. Loan guarantee, central staffing, motor operator, non-VA care, patient medical records. Right, there's your records. Veteran, employee, and citizen health care facility investigation records, all sorts of records. So, all these records are the one attribute they all share that have to do with you is the Social Security number. They don't do it by name, they do it by Social Security number. There we go. This is that Privacy Act notice a little bit further down. The VA uses your SSN to identify your file claim. Providing your SSN will help to ensure that your records are properly associated with your claim file. Giving us your SSN account information is voluntary. Refusal to provide your SSN by itself will not result in a denial of benefits. Yada, yada, yada. So, for me, I don't have any fear. I'll just give my security number and see what comes up. Right? But that's how they've tied all these records together, is by your Social Security number. Okay, hang on. So they make it really clear that, this is one way to do it. Use the Veteran Service Organization, right? But another way is you can appoint individuals as claimants representative, like an attorney, right, to act as your agent or attorney. Again, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go this way and make the county my agent. Okay, and then for the agent to have gotten the card they're talking about, because again, this is the thing that I want to make sure of, is I'm dealing with somebody that has this PIV card. Right? Well, to get the PIV card, they had to accredit the service organization representative, and this is the form they would have done it on. So, Form 21. So you can act, all of this information should be freedom of information as far as that goes. So you want to see the Form 21 for the person you're talking to. or the card, right, to prove that they are who they say they are. Okay, and then one last thing, like Kalkaska County Department of Veterans Affairs, right? How much more clear could it be? If you took off Kalkaska County, put in the United States, well, it'd be United States Department of Veterans Affairs. That's its proper name. So I say Kalkaska County Department of Veterans Affairs is just a local branch of the United States Department of Veterans Affairs because Kalkaska County is in the United States. Right? It's a subdivision. So, hang on again. Okay, so if you Google Veterans Affairs System of Records, right, you'll see System of Records notices, SORNs, VA Privacy Service. If you click on that, you'll see this current SORN list, right, System of Records notices list, and that's what we were looking at here, wherever you went to. Right, this right here, and then on each of these, then, if you click on the hyperlink, it'll take you to like the federal regulation or the Federal Register. I just want to show you one real quick. So this is the Federal Register information, right? Department of Veterans Affairs for the system of records to do with VA compensation, pension, education, vocational rehabilitation, employment cert records. So that'd be that 58V, da. So, you know, and then it will tell you in there what all the information is and what it's used for and so forth. And there really isn't that much for you to know in here. I just so they went to a lot of trouble to put all this stuff to make a record of it, so it must be important. I want the records. Well, this is the records to the VA. Now, there's one other record that I think that you want to get, and this is tied to the Service Members Relief Act, and I need a second to go find that, so hang on just a second. Okay, so Chapter 50 United States Code, so Title 50 United States Code, Chapter 50 is the Service Member Civil Relief Act. It also shows up in Title 38, I believe it is, but for whatever reason, it shows up in both of them. And so in here, it goes through all these scenarios where, you know, if you're in the military, they have to wait till you come back. They can't just default judgment you or so forth and so on, and all sorts of civil matters. And to do with taxes and so forth, like right here, taxes respecting personal property, money, credits, real property, foreclosures, debt, all these things, right? That what the plaintiff had to have done is file an affidavit that they have checked to make sure that the defendant isn't in the military, right? And protected under the Civil Members Relief Act. And so they make up some kind of blah, blah, put it in, and it's, you know, all done as a simulated legal process, but that's what they do. Right? Well, part of this, then, is this Section 4012, Certificates of Service, which is on page 47. Not that that matters, right? It's just Section 4012. Let's go look at it real quick. 47. Where it talks about prima facie evidence, right? In any proceeding under this chapter, a certificate signed by the secretary concerned is prima facie evidence as to any of the following facts stated in the certificate, right? That the name, that a person named is not, has not been in military service. The time and place the person entered military service, the person's residence at the time the person entered military service, the rank, branch, and unit in military service of the person upon entry, the inclusive dates of the person's military service, the monthly pay received by the person at the date of the certificate's issuance, and the time and place the person's termination or release from military service. Well, all these attributes, right, the evidence of them comes from this certificate. And so I'm saying that, well, this certificate really doesn't have anything to do with this act. They put it in this act, but you should be able to get a certificate from the secretary of your branch that you served in that will certify these 7 different attributes, right? And that then that the secretary concerned shall furnish a certificate under subsection A upon receipt of an application for such certificate. A certificate appearing to be signed by the secretary concerned is prima facie evidence of its contents and the signer's authority to issue it. So, this is one of the reasons I had contacted these people in the first place at Kent County. It's like, I want to get this certificate. And, I'm being led to believe I can get it. Right? That's one of the things they can do for me. And I'm saying because there's, I'm telling the guy, hey, there's errors and omissions in my records. And, what I want to have to start with is what somebody will certify to. So here you go. I want some evidence. A DD-214 is not evidence, right? This says right by the law, this is the prima facie evidence. So whatever it says is true, unless it can be proved not to be. But otherwise, it's, it's the truth. It's what they have to go by. So if you have this document from your service time and then all the records from the VA that you can get, and you start going through them and you start to find errors in them, well, then one of the other things that we have as veterans is, hang on now. So if you can find errors in your records under Title 38, right, United States Code 503, it says, if the Secretary determines that benefits administered by the Department have not been provided by reasons of administrative error on the part of the federal government or any of its employees, the Secretary may provide such relief on account of such error as the Secretary determines equitable, including the payment of monies to any person whom the Secretary determines is equitably entitled to such monies. The Secretary determines that a veteran, surviving spouse, child, a veteran, or other person has suffered loss as a consequence of reliance upon determination by a Department of eligibility or an entitlement to benefits without knowledge that it was erroneously made. The Secretary may provide such relief on account of such errors as Secretary determines is equitable, including the payment of monies to all persons whom the Secretary determines equitably entitled such monies. All right, so get the records, find the errors, have them file a frickin' application with the Secretary and say, hey, there's errors in these records. And I believe that they're, keeping me from having access to certain benefits. And now the Secretary can do the honorable thing and under equity, right, give equitable relief. And we cut out the middleman, right? If you've already tried and been denied, right, if it was done erroneously, right, the record of it is in these records I'm talking about. And if we just get the records and go through them and find the errors, well, then we'll just deal with the errors. So that's kind of my plan, right? Hang on again. Okay, and finally, just if there was to be any question, well, can you have access to these records or not, right? It says here that I will not disclose information collected in this form to any other source other than what has been authorized under the Privacy Act of 1974 or Title 38, Code of Federal Regulations 1.576. So let's look at that just real quick. 1.576. I know I had it up here somewhere. Hang on. Yeah, here we go. Subsection 1.576, where general policies, conditions, disclosure, accounting of certain disclosures and definitions. The Department of Veterans Affairs will safeguard an individual against an invasion of personal privacy, except as otherwise provided by law or regulation. Its officials and employees will, then it gives a bunch of them, right? Permit an individual to gain access to information pertaining to him or her in Department of Veterans Affairs records, have a copy made of all or any portion thereof, and to correct or amend such records. That's where I want to start, right there, right? So gather the records. You can have them under this section of the law, that, so I don't think there'll be any problem getting them. I'm just going to show you. They went to all the trouble to write this stuff out, so you can go point at it if you need to and just say we're going to do it by the book. The book says right here in number 3, permit an individual to gain access to information pertaining to him or her in Department of Veterans Affairs records. It didn't specify any particular record, all of them. right? So go search all your records for anything to do with me and give me a copy of it. Now, if they can do that, and the way this thing is written, that they can do anything, assistance and program of any kind to meet the needs of veterans of this state, well, then go get me the records for anywhere in the government about me and give me a copy. You know what I'm saying? This is, if they say yes, that kind of stuff, well, then we will be in the driver's seat. So there'll be more, obviously, after this. I mean, I haven't done any of it yet. I've only had a conversation with them, and I'm going to talk to them on Monday to do what needs to be done to get it set up. But basically, I've already told them I'm looking for records first before I worry about my claim. And that my claim is I got errors in my records. I want to show you that too real quick. Hang on, one more thing. Okay, so if you want to have access to the VA's website, right, they have you, first of all, apply for access by doing this thing to get a DS logon, they call it, right, which is basically this, right, how to get premium DS logon account online. And this DS logon then somehow affects your DEERS, DEERS record, which is this shared record between the VA and your service branch. It has to do with your identity and your service and so forth and so on, right? So it's shared information between both of them. And it's what they're using to, prove that you are who you say you are. Okay, well, when I had done this a few years ago, I ended up with, getting access, but it had my name as Robert A., middle initial, Ritlewski. So I complained about it. I said, this is wrong. And, well, that was wrong. And they had my birth date wrong. It's September 1st, right? It should be September 5th. And that it has my service dates incorrect, right? Where these dates are off. Each one is off by like 1 day. Right, so technically, this record isn't my record because they're really not talking about me. So I complained about it, and what they did? They changed my name. They put it in now. It's Robert Allen Ritlewski. And it's they make you jump through hoops to do this kind of stuff, and so I'm just telling. Look at I don't have a middle initial. My given name is Robert Allen. My last name is Ritlewski. Please update the records. Right, my birth date's wrong. My service dates are wrong. I waited months, and this is what I got. I got my name, Robert Allen Ritlewski. My birth date's still wrong, and my service dates are wrong. So this personal information here is information shared between the VA and the Department of the Army, and there's errors in it. So they can't say that there isn't, right? So what I need then is, because one of the things that the certificate from the Secretary proves is, what is your service information? Right? So just because I can look at it and say, well, these dates here do not match the dates on my DD-214, and neither does the birth date, and neither does the name, that there's errors in the record, so I need to get the certificate of service from the Secretary of the Army so that, this certificate here, 512, right, prima facie evidence, so that I can prove these things here compared to the other records I'm going to be getting from the VA. And again, you got this whole list right here, and not all of these pertain to the individuals, but they're all records that pertain to the VA. And so any system of records in the VA that has a record that's tied to my social security number, I want a copy of it. I don't really care which one of these it comes from. And so, I've explained this to the guy I was talking to. He made it sound like they could do all these things. So, excellent. We'll find out next week if, I understood it properly or whatever. But, this is all part of due diligence, first of all, is to, make sure that you fill this form out right. Make sure they fill out the form they needed to fill out. And I want to get a copy of the ordinance from the county that shows what they created and what name they gave it. And, everything is going to be by the book. Right? And if I can't if I find something not by the book, then I'll take it to the board and say, look, we're not doing this by the book. And hopefully we can, get a few advocates out of the Veteran Corps that'll do the right thing and put us into the right, into the right venue. And so I'll have more on this, early this week. We'll see what happens, but just giving you an idea of if there was one way for it to happen, right, for veterans to rule the nation, it would be through the County Department of Veterans Affairs. And I'll have more on it for you later. Okay, y'all have a great weekend. We'll see you now.